Here at the Timothy Group webinar, Fundraising Now. And today's topic is fundraising events that profit beyond breaking even to real revenue. So I hope today's session really encourages you. I know everyone has many events planned throughout the year, and the key point is how can we make these events more effective and better attended and more raise more money? How can we improve what we're doing? So I want to thank you for joining us today, taking some time on a busy week and before the weekend that you can spend this time with us. So I want to welcome our panelists today with us. First of all, Kent Vanderwood, he is our VP for People and Culture. And so thanks for coming, Kent. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Ron.
We also have Rebecca Curran. She's one of our senior consultants working on a lot of great projects. Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate you joining us.
Hi, Ron. Hello, everyone.
And Ellie Heckel, she is all the way from the great state of South Dakota, and she's joining us. So thanks, Ellie.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today.
So between the four of us, we've been planned, advised on, evaluated more fundraising events than we can count. And so what we're going to share today, hopefully changes the way you think about your next event so you can improve what you're doing. So before we get started, let me jump in with a quick word of prayer. Lord, I thank you for these friends who have joined us. I pray that the things that we share today will resonate with them and help them as they plan and execute their events, that they can do them for the glory, your glory. And I pray that what we share is a real encouragement to everyone. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so we got 60 minutes together. So we want to make three promises to you. Thank you for taking your time. So we want to leave you with a practical framework for evaluating any event before you say yes to it. There's all sorts of options you have, so you want to evaluate it before you say, yes, let's do this one. And we want to give you a way to measure the results. So, that your event is more than just a nice day, a nice time, a nice evening, that it has some real accomplished, measurable metrics. And we want to help you build an event culture that actually grows your donor relationship rather than exhausting your staff, because we know staff, our time is valuable. We want to make sure we're using volunteer staff and staff's time effectively. So here's our agenda. Here's where we're headed today with our webinar. So first of all, Kent and I are going to talk about how to frame events so that they're a dream, not a nightmare. I hope you've had the dream events. I hope you've not had the nightmare events. Then Rebecca's going to walk through the three critical questions that you really need to answer and wrestle through before you plan your events. Then Ellie's going to help us through the 5 types of events that help you match the right format to your mission. Kent and Rebecca will give us 4 planning tips that separate events that build momentum from those that burn people out. Ellie's going to break down the numbers for us, and Kent's going to bring us home with some post-event checklist. And so we have some time for question and answers at the end. So if you have some questions even right now, or as we move forward, please jump in, type your question in the Q&A box there, and we'll be sure to get to it. Okay, but before we start, here's the poll. I'm going to give you this little poll. How do you feel about your current fundraising event strategy? Would you say, I'm not sure they're worth the effort. Our efforts raise some money, but we spend too much doing it. We have a good event strategy, but we want to sharpen our measurement. Or our events are a strong part of our development program. So here's the poll. Quick run through there and click your answers, and we'll see what everybody says before we jump into this. All right, give you a couple more seconds here. All right. Hey, Brent, give us drum roll, please. All right. Some of your questioning, is it worth the effort? You raise some money, but spend too much money raising it. Some of you do have some good strategies, so that's good, and you want to sharpen it. And a few of you are like, this is great. This is our strategy. We're doing it. We're doing it well. Great. All right. So here we're going to jump in and encourage you with some thoughts. So first of all, Ken and I want to talk about this question that I get from development directors all the time. They call and say, "Okay, Ron, we're thinking about adding a gala event. Should we do it?" And so I always answer a question with a question of my own. And the question is, what do you want the event to accomplish? That question will either energize them or stops them cold. I mean, we don't want to just do an event to do an event. So, what do you see when you're working with ministry teams? So, Kent, help us think through this question.
Sure.
Is it a dream or a nightmare?
I will do that, Ron. First of all, I want to say welcome, everyone. And I was encouraged by the responses on the poll. It looks like we got a little bit of everybody there, a little bit of everything, which tells me we're probably hitting a nerve or hitting a need in your ministry. So I'm glad for that. You know, I've been involved in events for over 40 years. I've seen the nightmares, I've seen the dreams, the good ones, and all this. But I just want to say this to start with. Events should be part of your fundraising plan. They should be part of your development plan. If they're not, find a way to make it part. You know, we're not going to talk today about the different methods and markets of fundraising, but I really do believe that events should be part of that. So what I see when events become nightmares, Ron, is when they're inherited rather than intentional. The banquet has been on the calendar for many years. No one's asked whether we should still do it or whether it's still effective. How about this one? The golf happens because the board likes to golf. And before you know it, your advancement director or yourself as executive director are spending 6 weeks a year on logistics rather than donors. So the dream scenario is when an event is designed with a specific outcome in mind, staffed by the right people, and evaluated honestly. And that's one of our goals today that you're going to hear the answers to those questions. That's when events become one of the most powerful tools in your development toolbox. I want to say this, what works for one organization and ministry may not necessarily work for you. And what has worked in the past or worked last year may not work again this year. And we'll address that a little bit more later. But that's kind of my spin on that, Ron.
Yeah, that's good. So we have a great quote from Norman Vincent Peale. He said, uh, plan your work, work your plan. Lack of system produces that I'm swamped feeling. So, if you got a plan, then it's much easier to manage this feeling of being swamped or overwhelmed. Sometimes we go into these things and we don't have a good system, we don't have good structure, we have not trained our volunteers, and so it's just kind of chaos. And so that's a struggle. So let me just kind of start out here that a well-run event does 5 things for your ministry. And it could be a wonderful thing as you consider it. So it grows your volunteer engagement because it gives people a tangible way to invest in your mission. So the second one is that a well-run event creates donor acquisition and cultivation opportunities that you can't replicate in a letter. I think I have a new slide for that, Brent. And so this is really a key thing to say that, well, why should I even do an event? Well, it's a donor acquisition piece. Some people will come to this event that you've never met before. This is the entry point. This is their first impression of your ministry. And this is how they get introduced. And so you want to make sure that this event has all the elements of telling your mission well and telling your story well. So events should generate income. I mean, hopefully it generates more income than it actually costs. And so you got to make sure that you run your event well. And so we'll talk about some of the keys to how to do that. An event could build goodwill and peer relationships that deepen your community as you're working on the event and as your volunteers are, working this thing together. Then it's a blessing to them, and they get to know each other in a different way. And it gives your ministry a chance to celebrate what God is doing through your work. And so these are the various reasons that you should do an event. So the question is, will your next event actually deliver on these five key points? So, Rebecca, before any ministry starts planning an event, there are three questions that they have to answer honestly. So, walk us through those questions.
Yes, thank you, Ron. The three questions I'm going to share are the filter for every ministry needs before a single venue deposit is paid. You have to look at these three questions before you do anything. They're pretty simple questions, but they're not easy ones. So the three questions are purpose, outcomes, and capacity. The first question is about purpose. Here's how I frame it for ministry teams. Will your volunteers be energized by this event, or will they help because this is just what you all have always done? Events run on volunteer energy, as we know. And when your volunteers are excited, it it shows. People can feel that. And when they're just going through the motions, your donors can also feel that too. A purposeful event has a clear answer to why this, why now, and why us. And if you cannot answer those three things, you do not have a purpose. You only have a tradition. The second question is about outcomes. Will the time and energy invested in this event move donor relationships forward? That might mean goodwill, deeper connection to your mission, expanded networks, or raise funds. But the key word is forward. If your donors leave exactly where they started relationally, you've spent a great deal of time and money just pretty much treading water. So before you start planning any event, write down one sentence. At the end of this event, what do we want our donors to know, feel, and do? And if you can answer that clearly, you have your outcome. If you cannot, you need to go back to the drawing board.
I think that's a great question to answer. What do I want my donors to know, feel, and do as a result of coming to our event? So we want them to know stuff about the ministry, know about the impact. We want them to feel stuff, right? Because we want their heart to be moved, and then we want them to do something. I remember I came to an event. It wasn't my event. I wish it was. It was awesome. I came to this event and they showed this incredible video of a human trafficking situation, and it brought me to tears. It was like, wow, this is so real and so moving. And so intellectually, I knew it, but the video tugged on my heart to the point that I cried about it. And we cry good tears and then we give, right? So now that we're trying to force emotion into these things, but your ministry produces emotional results. And so we don't want to run from that. We want to make sure that we tell our story well. So Rebecca, you talked about the purpose and the outcomes and what else?
Well, the third question is capacity. Who on your staff and among your volunteers is best equipped to pull this off? Do they have the time, the job description, the budget to be successful? Capacity questions are the hardest for ministries to answer honestly because saying yes to an event can feel like faith and saying no can feel like fear a lot of times. But stewarding your team's time well is also an act of faith. So that's something to definitely consider. And an honest capacity ministry asks, what is this event going to cost us in staff hours, volunteer hours, marketing, and logistics? Then they can compare that to the projected return. And that comparison is really what's going to move events from noble intentions to smart stewardship.
Yeah, I think that's very good. So capacity, we only have a limited amount of time and resources, and volunteer time is a commodity, and your staff time is valuable. So you got to make sure that this event is going to maximize your resources well. I mean, if at the end of the day, everybody's working for pennies on the dollar, you have to think, well, maybe we need to question this event. All right, so let's do a little chat here. Let's drop in the chat. Which of these three questions does your ministry find hardest to answer honestly? So, is it the purpose statement? Is it the outcomes? Is it the capacity? Just drop in the chat what you see, how you would respond to those metrics. So I'm seeing outcomes, capacity. So we think we have the purpose down, but outcomes and capacity seem to be, yeah, that's right there. Capacity, because like, one of you commented, everyone is overloaded. So you have a small team. And so you have to really think about how do I maximize my team in the very best way possible. All right, so let's keep going. Thank you so much for helping with that. Now, Ellie, help us understand the different kinds of events that people should consider, could consider.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ron. So let's take a look right now at 5 examples of events. We want to first start with the business or leadership roundtable example. All of us know that events are not one size fits all. Can you raise your hand for that one? Can you hear me? Different ministry goals call for different event strategies. We touched on this earlier. So let's walk through these 5 formats and help you think about which might be the right one for you. So, business or leadership roundtable. This is a great format for ministries looking to expand their donor base among influential community leaders. This suggestion here would be to keep it small, 12 to 20 guests over breakfast or lunch with a focused conversation about your mission and its impact. The goal here is not to raise money at the event. The goal is to discover and have conversations amongst the people. We're meeting new friends who might care about the mission. Some of them will become your next major gift prospects.
Right. It's an introductory, it's a discovery meeting from your side and from the donor side. They're trying to learn about you, you're trying to learn about them. And so this is a great thing because I've had these where you're inviting a pretty prominent person to come as the guest, and everybody says, I want to go talk to that. I want to go hear what that person has to say. So it's you're using that guest as the credibility, they're the draw, the attraction to come learn more about your ministry. What else?
Yeah, I just want to touch on that too. So one of the things like in the business workplace, thinking about chamber uh leaders or even like the mayor, to be part of that. So yes, I think this could look different depending on the group for roundtables. So second, we're going to look at the banquet opportunity. So this is your large format revenue event, such as a golf outing, outdoorsman event, auction galas, or even a fall festival or a back to school event if you're a school or university. These are your revenue generating workhorses. They require the most planning and the most volunteers, but when executed well, they can be transformational for your annual fund. The program must be as strong as the production. A beautiful venue with a forgettable program is a missed opportunity.
Right. Right. I had a ministry that put together a really, really nice banquet, but they didn't have clarity on the purpose. And then that night, the sound system was not sufficient. And so people couldn't hear anything. And so people walked away disappointed and confused and saying, I don't know why, what was this event all about? I mean, it was honestly, they were questioning why did we come to this event? So, that's a nightmare scenario. What else we got?
I think that's also a great point, Ron, just thinking about like the resources and materials here, right? If you have a video presentation or if you have a packet of information that's going to go on the table, make sure that it's polished and that everything is working and have time to prepare for that.
Yep.
So next up we have a celebration. Are you guys ready? Okay, here we go.
Oh, nice.
What
Nice.
if you're preparing for A groundbreaking event. Yes, we brought the giant scissors today.
Oh,
Okay.
nice, nice, nice.
So these are tied to specific milestones, and Kent's got his hard hat on. He's ready. This could be a capital campaign launch, a new facility opening, a significant anniversary. All of these type of events and celebrations carry built-in emotional energy for the community that you cannot manufacture. There are moments when your donors want to be part of something larger than themselves. It's important to have those donors present at these groundbreakings. Kent, you you have one of those shovels right there in that photo, right? For the
I
Tim
do. I have one of those. I just didn't have it with me today, and I didn't know if I could hold it up to the camera. But I will tell you, along with groundbreaking events, hard hat tours, if you're in a capital campaign or in a
Right,
construction project, if
right.
there's a time that you can bring your donors in small groups through with hard hats on, it can be pretty compelling. So, hard hat tours and groundbreakings, here we go.
Yay.
Whee!
And
Great.
ribbon cuttings when it's done.
Yes.
That's as important.
I think I got so excited, Ellie, that you skipped number three,
Oh, did
She
I skip
did?
one? Oh, I'm so sorry.
the
I skipped over.
constituency
I was
affinity
just very
events.
excited for the ribbon
You're so
cutting one.
excited. The pound palms blew you off track.
Okay, let's just go back to number three really quick. Constituency and affinity events. Okay, we don't want to miss this one. Sorry, this is number three. So this is Grandparents' Day, homecoming, parent weekends, alumni receptions, former client or graduate reunions. Those are great opportunities to kind of build that connection back and hear those stories. These work because they activate existing loyalty. Again, building that connection, building upon the past experiences. Your job is not to introduce people to your mission. Your job is to deepen a relationship that already exists and invite them to express that loyalty with a renewed commitment.
That's super.
Yay!
That's super. All right, let's jump to the vision casting.
Okay, so our fifth one, oh, yes, our fifth one
There we
here.
go.
There we
go.
go. Perfect. Sorry. The fifth one is vision casting and donor briefing events. So think of this more of a smaller, intimate gathering designed for major gift cultivation. Think of it like a dinner at a president's home, a private facility tour, or even a living room gathering with 8 to 10 of your top prospects. These require less logistical overhead than a larger event, but they demand far more personal attention and follow through. This is very relational, very intimate. They can be meaningful, especially having the right people in the room and seeing a lot of those valued conversations happening.
Yeah, we love these events. We call them vision nights. We feel like it's a chance for your major donors, especially to invite their friends in a non-threatening setting, just a welcoming um, time in their own home. And it's a relationship, it's friend raising, and that's the best time. And you can follow up later. Don't ask for money in those kinds of events. Okay, so now that we have the kinds of events, Kent and Rebecca, talk about the four planning tips that are going to help turn a good idea into a great event.
Yeah. Thank you, Ron. Great overview, Ellie, by the way. So the first one is know your audience. This is so critical. It's very foundational in your planning. This sounds obvious, but I am consistently amazed by how many ministries plan events for the audience they wish they had rather than that they actually have. So I have an example I want to share with that. I'm golfing in a golf event in 2 weeks for an organization that I've golfed with before. They have not had the golf invitational or golf event for the last 5 years, and they decided to put it back on their calendar. Well, they're really struggling with getting people there. And as the director started calling people, he realized that a lot of the ladies and men that golfed in the past that made up the foursomes are no longer golfing. They're older, they've moved on to other things, and so what they're doing is they're thinking they have the same group, the same audience that they had, you know, 10, 15 years ago, and it's no longer there. So They need to adjust their expectations, begin to recruit new younger folks in there. So know your audience means thinking carefully about the time of the year. You do not want to do your if your target audience is farmers, you don't want to do it during May. If they're business leaders, you don't want to compete with the Chamber of Commerce dinner that's every year, usually in January in my area. If they're young families, an evening event without childcare can be very hard on them. So think about what, when, and where in light of the specific people you're trying to reach. Very important. You're up, Rebecca.
Well, the second tip is to know your volunteers. Thank you, Kent. Every event runs on people, and basically, the biggest planning mistake I see is putting the wrong person and the wrong role. Not because of character or commitment, but because of fit. Oftentimes, what will happen is if you put the wrong individual in the wrong role, you're just setting up a recipe for frustration for all parties involved. And we don't want to do that to our volunteers, and we don't want to frustrate ourselves as the organizer of the event. So, some volunteers are great with logistics and they love checklists, and I'll make sure that every name tag is spelled correctly. And then other volunteers are pretty natural at relationships, people, and relationship building. So they should be greeting donors at the door and following up with following up with your donors the week after the event. So make sure you're matching personality, skills, and genuine interest to your volunteer roles that maximize their strengths and ensures that the experience your donors have reflect the best of your ministry.
It's great. The third tip is know your goals. So again, very important that you have goals and that they're specific and measurable because event goals need to be rather than be too vague, like I often see with organizations. So here's an example. Our goal is to have a great event. That's not a goal. That's not a goal. That's just a wish. A real goal sounds like this. We will acquire 25 new donor households at or above the $500 level. Or here's another one. We will raise $120,000 net after expenses. Or here's a third. We will move 15 lapsed donors back into active status. These are goals that are measurable, they're specific, they have real outcomes, and they give your team something to aim at and make the post-event evaluation honest.
Awesome. Well, and the fourth tip is to know your results. So that goes back to the SMART goal. It has to be measurable, right? This is where
Right.
most ministries fall short, not because they do not care, but because they just don't have the system in place. It's so important to go back and track your results. You have to know your results. That means you've got to capture the data from every event and you got to compare it against your goals. How many households were you invited versus how many actually attended? How much did we raise versus how much did we spend? Or even what did we want to raise versus how much was actually raised? And then what relationships advanced as a result of your function? So, what follow up is required and with who? And most importantly, who is it assigned to? Who's going to own that follow up and who do they report to? And without this, you're just kind of flying blind, which
Yeah.
you do not want to do because every event becomes a learning opportunity that makes the next one even stronger if you go through this step of measuring your results.
That's good. Very helpful, guys.
Yeah.
So Ellie, let's get into the numbers. Walk us through how to calculate whether an event was worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for sharing all that. It's wonderful. So at the top here, we have PYW, YWP. Any guesses in the comments of what this stands for from our previous slide that Ron shared? Any guesses? Make sure to put in the comments. Drum roll. Woo. Plan your work your plan. Yes, there you go. Great job, guys. Major
Got it.
Bob. Woohoo! Trivia question. So this was referenced earlier from our quote that Ron shared. And I wish that every ministry team would sit down with this framework for 30 minutes even after their debrief for any event that they host, because the numbers tell a story. And that story is almost always more instructive than our feelings about whether the event went well, our emotions to it. So it starts simple. Our total revenue received minus our total costs equals your net fundraising revenue. Your costs include staff time, marketing and printing, catering, decorations, and supplies. Every line item matters here. So let's take a look at the outcomes analysis framework. From there, we can calculate 4 key ratios: the return on investment, or ROI, or your net profit is your net profit divided by total cost, multiplied by 100. A good event should produce an ROI of at least 150%, meaning for every dollar you spent that you raised $1.50 net. Next, let's look at cost per dollar raised, or CPD. This is the total cost divided by the total revenue. If you spent $30,000 and raised $90,000 gross, your CPD is 33 cents. Anything under 50 cents is generally healthy here. Next, let's look at average raised per participating household, or ARP, which is the total revenue divided by the number of attending households. This tells you the average value of each relationship who showed up and helps you size future events. And lastly, your net raised per participating household, or NRP, takes net profit divided by participating households. That is the real economic value of each attendee relationship after all the costs are removed.
That's very good.
That is. It's awesome.
And the cost per solicited mean, all right, so it cost you $15,000 to do this event, and you solicited how many households? Maybe 5 households. That's not good. So you want to make sure that your ratios line up. So we got one more poll here. So does your ministry currently track event ROI and cost per dollar raised after each event? So here are your choices. You can answer here. No, we don't track these metrics at all. We track basic revenue versus cost, but not the ratios. We track some metrics, but not consistently. Or yes, we are doing everything right, and we have a standard post-event analysis that we run every time. I hope you're honest.
Every time.
We want to hear
time.
from you. Come on.
Every time. Okay. Okay, Brent, the drum roll, please. So, oh, no, everybody says, no, we didn't do it every time. So, all right. So we don't track it. We track basic stuff. We track it, but not consistently. Well, I think everybody's in a different space. This is a learning experience. We're just trying to help you see other opportunities to grow and to improve your.
I am encouraged, though, Ron, that 67% said they do track.
Yeah,
And
that is good.
To me, that's pretty darn good.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so Kent, help us now as we have a post-event checklist. What does it look like after the event's all over and we're trying to evaluate, should we do it again, or what should we do again?
Yeah. So a post-event debrief does not have to be a long meeting, but it's a very necessary one. Make sure you put it on the calendar. It should be done within a week of the event to be most effective. It's a very disciplined 20 to 30-minute conversation with the right people. So get the events planning team around the table that helped plan this, those that were involved in facilitating and implementing, and just have an honest discussion while the event is still fresh on your mind. So there's 6 questions that you want to ask when you do this post-event debrief. And I'll run through those real quick here and maybe comment on one or two of them. So, did we meet our objectives for the event? Remember the objectives we talked about: measurable, um, specific numbers of dollars, numbers of donors, numbers of new households, the things that Ellie was just talking about as well. Did you meet your objectives? Did you meet your budgetary goals? And I realize that we're all over the map on that. There are events that you double or triple what you put into it. And a lot of it has to do with dollars received in advance of the event and what kind of underwriting you've done and how effective that's been. But you want to measure it nonetheless. You want to have events that do more than just break even. That's what we're trying to help you with today, to where they're actually effective and meaningful. Um, so look at those outcomes. Do the math. Did we have enough volunteers for the event? That's always a tricky one. The right people and the right seats are the most effective and the right roles. There may be moments when you feel like you need more help on an event, and maybe that's where the next time around you say, you know what, we were short in this area or short in that area. We had 10 volunteers. We really could have used 15. But, you're going to be unprepared, especially if you do an event for the first time, but you can perfect it over time. Number 4, what could we have done differently to improve the event? That might be the most important post-event question that you ask. Most teams get into that. A lot of times they'll skip it just because it feels critical. Like, wow, what can we do better? That means we didn't do well. No, that doesn't mean that at all. There's always room for improvement. So tackle that question. Improve year after year, showing willingness to grow in that area. Did we execute the program in a professional manner? Again, not looking for perfection, but looking for professionalism there. So that's your standard. Did our donors experience our ministry at its best? That's what we're looking for there. And then again, what changes would we make? And that's important. That's kind of related to number 4. What could you do differently? What changes? Do you leave the room without writing down at least one specific thing? That's probably not an effective debrief. Come up with solid consensus events or thoughts that you could do to improve. So do it better the next time.
So that's good. And thanks, Kim, for walking through that. So we want to have some time here for questions. If you could use the Q&A box, there's a lot of chats going on, and sometimes it's hard to pull out what those questions are. So use the Q&A box. That helps us the most. I think I found one in the chat talking about how can I get, let me read it right. Um, how to build relationships with pastors and get into churches, conferences, events to share about our ministry, how to build support for the goals we have in our ministry. So, maybe 2 different questions there, but Kent, let's just start with, how do you get into churches, and give me a church strategy.
Well, you asked me, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
Well, I will say this. I've been doing development and fundraising for 40 years, and I will say that church dollars, for lack of a better term, I'm generalizing that, but support from churches is probably one of the tougher ones, unless you're an outreach type, maybe an international evangelism ministry that the church decides to support on a regular basis. But finding church support for other causes such as, Christian schools, colleges, those types of things, it can be a little bit more challenging. So you have to have a strategy, and that strategy might often involve just getting to know the person who's the decision maker at that church or the decision making body. In some cases, it's an assistant pastor, senior pastor. Some cases, it's a deacon committee. Find out who makes those decisions and just start to cultivate. Churches are no different than other donors in that they need to be cultivated and loved on. So spend time with them, cultivate them. See if you can get in and set up a table in the back of the church that would, promote your ministry. Maybe they'll give you 2.5 to 3 minutes at the podium to make some announcements. But it's just a matter of working it. again, it's not easy, but you need to know it's going to be work, but you can do
Right.
it.
And some denominations and some ministries have an easier path because they're part of the family.
Correct.
And so you have, the barriers are less because you're a household name, they know you. But churches are a gateway to individuals. So one of the things we want to do with churches is just simply have a presence. And we also want to offer them something so it's not just a one-way street. Can you give them something of value back so they see you as a valued partner? Oh, we got some great questions coming on. So this is good. All right. So, do you suggest having a major fundraising event like a gala annually? I say the word gala instead of gala because my sister's name was Gala, and so I remember that I should say it that way. But it's maybe
Yeah.
gala to you. I don't know. Tomato, tomato. So here it is. Where did the question go? I was reading the question. Okay.
It's under
Um,
answered. Yep.
Given that it takes so much time and energy and volunteer labor to pull off an amazing gala event every year, I wonder if it's the best practice. So this is good. So Ellie wants to answer this one. I know it.
Okay, I'm going to read the question again to make sure I understand. Okay, we talked about this a little bit actually in our prep for this webinar. How many of you guys, just in the chat, your organization, your ministry plans a gala every year? You've been doing it for years and years and years. It's just the thing that you do every year. Just put in the comment, yes, 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 no. Okay. I think it goes my response to this kind of goes back to your capacity here. How many staff are really that do you have that are really going to give full effort into planning, preparation? There's a lot of ways that we can prepare and plan for things, but then even thinking about the follow through after, right? So I think the question is it can it be effective? Yes, it can absolutely be effective. As long as you feel like you will get a return on investment, as long as you feel like you have the adequate number of staff, number of volunteers, number of support to make it happen. And so those are some of the things that even maybe some of these other questions we can, as we talk to some of our team here, to touch on that too.
Yeah,
And I think,
Ron.
the question is it the best practice? I think that's so individualized to your
Yeah.
ministry. The
Yeah.
question is, if you raise $100,000 consistent with your gala and you're just getting burned out, yeah, you can skip it, but how are you going to replace that $100,000?
You're right. Ron, if I could
So,
jump in and just
yeah,
say, I
jump
think
in, Kent.
I think every one of our ministries and organizations needs a signature event, whether it be
Yeah,
a gala or maybe for you it's golf, maybe it's a sportsman's event that kind of carries the load there. I have seen, we have an organization here. It's a school here in Grand Rapids area that's done what they call a new friends dinner, and they've done it for 40 years, and it just gets better and bigger every year, and it never wears out. And it's because they've gotten it down to a science. They've got the right pieces in place. So why would they not continue to do it? I think
right.
I saw somebody suggest maybe every other year, every few years.
I have seen
You
that.
want to keep momentum going too, though. So I think that's a
Yeah.
challenge.
And your example is they're bringing new people to the dinner every year.
Yes, they are.
So, if your dinner is stagnant, that's the same crowd, not everybody wants to go every year. But if you're growing and you're inviting new people, it's a great pipeline to tell your story.
It's
So,
an acquisition donor event for them.
yeah.
New
Okay,
donors.
so here's another one. We're having a trap shooting event that will be sponsored by a board member's company. The goal is event to gather new friends, business leader, community members. How long should our presentation be? I'm thinking short and sweet, but what is too short? We got to be careful because your friends there they're be armed.
Yeah.
So
If they take
unlike
too
other
long,
events
it's
where
dangerous.
people you can keep droning on, I think you need to be very judicious. Be brief. Be gone.
I
Um,
think Nyla even commented too, Ron. She said in the chat, but my last place did it very well, and it was community alumni building. So it was a
yeah,
great opportunity working in
yeah,
Christian school. So I think that's, yeah,
yeah.
just added note there.
So I think your presentation needs to be 30 minutes max. And if you had a video to break it up, if you had something special, if you had a great speaker, but people don't come for the show, they come for shooting. And so you got to make sure that they enjoy that part.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another one. I wonder if it's beneficial to have donor underwrite the cost of an event. And the answer is yes, absolutely.
Always, always.
Yes, absolutely. If so, should we still charge a ticket price or offer it for free to other donors? Well, that's a pretty interesting comment. Many times that we organize events and they're free in the first place. And so we try to underwrite all of the costs, not just with one donor, it's great, but sponsoring tables. And so at the end of the night, you can say to everybody, hey, thanks for coming. And here we want you to focus on student scholarships. Uh, don't worry about giving a gift to cover the cost of your meal because our sponsors cover the cost tonight. So every gift that you give tonight is going to go straight to the scholarship fund, straight to the annual fund, straight to whatever it is, and it's not going to be cared for in expenses. So that's one way to look at it.
Hey,
Ellie.
Ron, we have two other great questions. I don't want to miss these. So
Great, great.
Kathy had a question. Many of our donors feel uncomfortable asking friends to attend our event, host tables, etc. How can we better encourage friend raising? I think this is a fantastic question because Ron, maybe you could speak into this or other team members as we walk through this process and this specific question on our major donor game plan training. This question has come up in some of my client calls, and I think this is a great way to highlight our training process at the Timothy Group.
Yeah, I mean that is a typical board response is I don't want to invite my friends. And I know that's super frustrating. Um, that's part of the board member's job. That's part of the job description. And so it's like we want you to be actively engaged in identifying new friends to help tell our story. So that's a deeper question than just they won't come to this event. It's maybe more of, well, do I have the right board members? Do I have the right people? Are they really helping me now? And so that's a question for next week. Next month, we're going to talk about healthy board habits. And so maybe that's a conversation for next month. Other questions? What are you seeing?
Awesome. There's another question here. I have a very small staff and no event person. So no event planner, no coordinator.
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons of hiring an outside event manager or consultant?
Good question. Rebecca, you have anything? I can jump in, but I
I
want to give.
mean, I think that when it comes to hiring, I mean, clearly one of the cons is they're not free. So that's going to, you just have to factor that in when you are putting together the event and what your goals are, that you will have this additional expense. I do think that it is one of the great benefits is it really takes a lot of pressure off of your small staff. And I think that that is a very good
Yeah,
thing. And you do have the ability to collaborate with them. So just, I would consider when, if you're considering hiring someone, I would definitely look at their reputation. I would ask about some people who have worked with them in the past, what experience they had. And I would look at, just get her, that individual's list of services
right.
and know exactly what they're going to do because you don't want to get into a situation where you're assuming or presuming that they're supposed to do A, B, and C when they only want to do D, E, and F.
Yeah,
Right.
So that's another really important
yeah,
component is ensuring that you guys are both on the same page as to who's going to do what and then the responsibilities of what your team is going to do and what they're going to do, what those goals are, the capacity, etc. So
right. I
Yeah.
That's
think
great.
for
Got
the
anything?
right, go ahead.
Go,
Sorry.
you got anything to add, Kat? I was going to ask
Yeah,
you.
for the right small organization, if it's a matter of, doing it with an outside event manager versus not doing it, I would hire someone to do it.
Yeah.
Um, because otherwise you're not going to make any money doing it alone if you don't have people to do it. So, but again, check references. Um, I think it can make sense in the right case.
Yeah.
So here's a great question, and we need to probably start wrapping things up. But Ryan says, "Hey, we've held an annual winter gala for a number of years, and some way trained our attendees it's an inspirational event, not a fundraising event. How can we go about changing expectations so people come primed to give and not just hear a nice story?" I think that's a great problem to solve, right? Because sometimes if the goal was well, have a good time and feel good about our ministry, you can do that, but you need to bring it to a close. Some of it is in the beginning, in the invitation, right? So, uh, clarifying that this vision night, you're going to hear great stories and you're going to have a chance to participate in the future of our ministry. And so we just thank you in advance for your generosity. I mean, there are ways to make sure that people know it's a fundraising event, but then even in your um, programming, to make sure that you tell your story well, but then bring it in and have a close. I mean, sometimes we just say, well, hey, there's a pledge card on the table. Thanks for coming. Right. No, bring it down to a hey, this is a moment you can make a difference. You need to have somebody scripting the close,
Right.
and you need to have a pledge card that is clear and walk people through the pledge card and say, here's how you can help us tonight. And we just appreciate your attendance. But I mean, I've done multiple closes. Ken has too. I mean, you need to make sure your close is clear and compelling. So then people shouldn't walk away saying, well, I didn't know that was a fundraising event. That's part of your marketing problems, but it's also part of your programming problem. So, okay. Anybody else? Did you guys see a question come through that I didn't catch or you didn't catch?
I think the only thing that it's kind of a piggyback question from what Kent and Rebecca talked about, the pros and cons of hiring. Thinking about what do we see when working with ministry teams around events in general, like when it comes to staffing and volunteers. Is there anything else that we can share as an insight for those?
I think
Do you
we
want me to add
covered it.
something? Okay. I think to Ron's point, I think it's just keeping our staff well trained and informed on the expectations, both internally, so that we can provide the best output externally. So making sure that we have adequate training, a number of volunteers, and we plan as best we can to make sure that the event, whichever option we choose, or whatever we're planning and preparing for, that it is accurately reflecting the organization's mission and goals, and that the expectations are met.
Right. I think the number one thing is to avoid chaos at all
That's a
costs.
good.
Avoid plan to avoid chaos. All right, let's keep moving. Thank you so much for the great questions. We appreciate your participation. So, um, we want to talk about next steps here. So, when we think about some resources before I close, here's a resource for you. So it's called Event Outcomes Analysis Worksheet. So it's what Ellie talked about. It's what Rebecca talked about and Kent. So there's a fundraising initiative worksheet. So this will help you think through these ideas yourself. And secondly, we have an event tool planning toolkit. And so we want to give you that as well. So in the follow-up email, there will be a link where you can go answer 5 questions about our webinar and get a download. And Brent will send you out uh, the slide deck and these resources so you can take it back to your ministry and think really wrestle through these things so that your next event could be even greater than your last event. We also have a couple things coming up that we want to talk about. First of all, we have a nonprofit fundraising seminar right here in Grand Rapids. It's a 1 day, September 9th, 10th, I'm sorry, September 10th. Look on our website. We'd love to have you register for that. It's at the Drury Inn and Streets Suites here in Grand Rapids, and it's a full day event. And it's specifically designed for leaders serious about building your fundraising plan. So we'd certainly love to invite you to Grand Rapids and spend some time with us. We also want to offer a free 30-minute consultation with one of our consultants. So if you have a question or if you have some things you're working through with an event or even just bigger picture when you're thinking about a capital campaign or feasibility study or training, or we'd love to have a chance to talk you through that and help you think about how to make good choices. So, wow, it looks like we covered a lot. So, Kent and Rebecca and Ellie, thanks so much for the conversation today. Appreciate that. And you guys brought a lot of great opportunities to this. I hope we encourage everybody. Hey, let me have a word of prayer with you, everybody, as you in our webinar. Lord, I thank you for these friends that joined us today. Bless their ministries, bless them as they plan the next event. They want to do it for your glory. Give them insight, help them to do things to the best of their abilities. We thank you for your kindness to us today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.